Hi there, I'm Beth and I'm excited to be able to share my latest custom Blythe doll with you all. She was commissioned by one of my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. I often ask for a name or nickname and a little backstory if possible, giving me an idea of the doll's personality, hobbies or themes. I was told her name will be Lettie and that she learned to bake because of her love of desserts. Her favourite cake to bake is a Victorian sponge cake, and she loves to go into the forest to search for edible flowers and plants that she can decorate her bakes with. I thought Lettie's story was just wonderful and set about sketching and painting some ideas. I started with more of my usual comfort cottagecore style, but developed my ideas more towards a smart uniform style with a Victorian twist. We both agreed to go with this one, which consists of heeled boots, a skirt and apron, a waistcoat and shirt finished off with a necktie. I began by adapting one of my existing shoemaking patterns, turning a flat-heeled boot into a higher-heeled pointed toe style. I altered the shape of the sole and upper and angled the back piece so that it would remain upright despite the different angle caused by the heel. I was excited to spot a little set of baking tools in a shop in Aberdeen and couldn't resist picking them up for Lettie. Her new owner plans to make a special themed room for Lettie, which I think will be wonderful. Her theme really gives me Studio Ghibli vibes, and I would love to see the setting that she settles down in. I make a start with my new shoemaking pattern, cutting out the paper templates and using a pair of jewellery pliers to punch holes in both the templates and later the leather. Using some recycled leather, I trace my templates using a white gel pen, which can be wiped away later. Then I cut out all my pieces. I have covered the method I use for leather shoemaking in previous videos if you're interested to see them in more detail, but using a saddle stitch, I put together all the pieces of my boots. We sell 3D printed shoemaking lasts at bethramsden.com already, but for this higher heeled design, I wanted to try altering them to better suit the new shape. To do this, I broke the last at the ankle and used polymer clay to reconnect and tilt the foot further downward. I then added a little more clay to the toe of the last, giving it a point. I repeated this for the other foot, and as I feared, they weren't terribly sturdy, but they did the job. I was able to glue them back together. While waiting for the leather to dry, I set about making the shirt for Lettie, using my existing sewing pattern, the shirt dress, as my starting point. I would omit the skirt and draft a different shape of collar to better replicate my artwork. I had just received a new mini iron for my birthday and was very excited to try it out. This one is Cricut branded and comes with a cute little stand. I begin assembly of the shirt by stitching the darts in the bodice and sewing round 3 sides of the collar. I turn and press the collar before joining the front and back bodice pieces at the shoulder seams. The sleeves will be made in the same style as my shirt dress and will be turned up and pressed with the iron before each side is tacked into place with a little extra space left to allow for the curvature of the arm. Here the sleeves have been inserted, and next I will align the centre of the collar with the centre back of the shirt before pinning the collar in place. The shirt facing is then wrapped back around the other side of the collar and pinned into place to be stitched as well. Once sewn, the facing can be flipped back, revealing a neat folded front closure. Next, I fold in each side of the shirt and stitch up the side seams. I turn the shirt right side out and test fit it before neatly finishing off the lower hem. I plan to keep the silhouette of Lettie's outfit very slim, slender and tight against her waist, and so I don't plan to add buttons to this shirt, instead using the waistcoat to hold it closed, minimising bulk. Using the shirt pattern as a starting point, I sketch out a waistcoat pattern for Lettie. The waistcoat will also have front darts and will be stitched at the back to create a nice curve too. The details will be difficult to see on black, but I trace out my template pieces onto a lightweight black cotton for the lining and a black suit fabric for the outer. I stitch the darts and join the shoulders before layering the lining and outer together, right sides in. I stitch around the opening and neckline as well as around each armhole. I then carefully turn the waistcoat right side out. Once pressed with the iron, I'm able to align the side seams, opening them out and stitching across both the outer and lining before turning them out. This method gives me a very neat and fully lined garment, with only the lower hem yet to be stitched. I ended up doing this by hand to get exactly the shape I wanted. I'm really delighted with the fit of her shirt and waistcoat, and I was delighted to have found the perfect little closure that will suit her very well. This ornate little metal buckle stitches onto each side of her waistcoat and looks beautiful, I think. I made some measurements and sketched out the pattern pieces for a simple 3-panel skirt. I used the same suiting fabric as the waistcoat outer and joined and hemmed the skirt panels. Again, it's difficult to see on black fabric, but the rear closure has a nice overlap and is secured with a snap fastening. Let's see what these main pieces look like together so far. Her boots have now fully dried and can be removed from the lasts. I use polymer clay once more to shape and sculpt 2 heels which I will paint black once baked and attach to the sole using extremely strong contact glue. Her boots will just need to be laced up, and off camera, I whipped up a pair of tights for her as well. I also whipped up her necktie, which consists of 2 different widths of black ribbon, which can be tied at the back of the neck and tucked into the waistcoat if desired. Since her outfit is nearly complete, I decided to switch gears and customize her face next. I was a little concerned to spot some plastic discoloration around the top of both the back and front faceplates, but proceeded with sanding to establish whether it was merely the sealant layer lifting away from the plastic or just discoloration. The colour difference is much less after sanding, but it was still faintly present. In my opinion, it seems that the discoloration lies within the plastic itself, perhaps something that happened during the injection moulding process. This doll has what they call a tan skin colour, and I'm often asked how to sand and seal dolls with darker skin in a way that avoids leaving an ashy or dusty residue. I sanded the front and back plate quite thoroughly to remove the dark factory makeup, and as you see, the colour difference is significant. I like to use a melamine or magic sponge with soap and water to thoroughly wash the faceplates before using a cotton pad or cotton bud with a little Vaseline to fully wipe down all of the sanded surfaces. The Vaseline helps to pick up all of the tiny loose particles, but it also needs to be thoroughly washed away before spraying with your base coat of sealant. I hope that helps some of you who are having difficulty customizing darker skinned dolls. I won't get into depth with the carving process today, as I found myself in the zone and did most of her carving off camera. Perhaps as a result of this, or simply my efforts to always try to push myself, this faceplate ended up being my most favourite that I've carved to date. I was just delighted with how the shape of her mouth turned out, and I hope you'll agree that once she has her face up, she is truly beautiful. Before I got into the face-up, I quickly experimented with a more fantasy-styled pair of eye chips for her, initially thinking that I would make shimmery green clovers for the iris. Perhaps, fortunately, they didn't come out quite right, as the clear resin bubbled out to the edges, making them slightly oddly shaped. I ended up trying a different technique later, which, again, ended up being my favourite. For her face-up, I used my usual materials, watercolour pencils and pan pastels, layered with Mr. Super Clear matte sealant. I started with her lips this time, giving her a bolder and more graphic shape. With the eyelids in, I was able to use them to help me line up the positions of both her inner eye creases and her outer eyeliner. Using only the watercolour pencils, I sketched in more detail and upper eye creases before beginning to add pastels for shading. Keeping the front and back head plate together, I add blushing around the cheeks, forehead and ears. I would then use watercolour pencil to lightly sketch in her eyebrows, and later to add some freckles and beauty marks. I use a tiny brush to add further shading details and then set about sketching out her backplate art design. I had researched various edible flowers and chose some of these to decorate her with. Eyelids coloured and eyelashes attached. Some hard to make out custom eyes in progress with some greens and some other potential eyes that I'll use. Got the front and back of the head and the scalp, and then a very honest and chaotic rest of the desk right now. We've got all sorts of clutter going on. This is just how it is. Despite my chaotic surroundings, I finally put together all of the separate elements of her head. And isn't she just absolutely stunning? I was asked to choose 3 sets of eye chips and create one unusual or fantasy-styled set as well. I'm definitely going to have to make more in this style, but we'll just point out for now the different layers of detail, adding depth, as well as the tiny leaf decals and iridescent flakes, letting the eyes shimmer and sparkle as she moves. With a little tacky glue, I set each eye chip into place before checking them from the front. Definitely my favourite eye chips so far. It was also requested that I install one of our neck joints to give her better mobility, and as part of this, I also wanted to make a slight alteration to the inside of her head to help this further. Most AliExpress head moulds have quite an enclosed box for the neck to fit into, compared to something like the Good Smile Company head, which has a much more open area on top. By marking and carefully carving away more of this box, I'm able to enable the cap of our neck joint to rotate and swivel much more freely. It's no longer being hindered by the plastic box. And I repeat this in the front faceplate as well, before closing up her head. Now it's time for some finishing touches, such as glossy varnish on her under eye and lips. Also, choosing and threading on some beads for her pull cords. I stuck with a black, white and gold colour theme to match her smart clothing and classy appearance. I also put together a little apron, which you'll see better in a moment. And here's another look at those beautiful custom eye chips, and the other colours I chose for her too. Her backplate art, adorned with cornflowers, clover and borage too. And a better look at her little apron, trimmed with embroidered flowers and finished with a little rose with leaves at the hip. Of course, all of my custom dolls are sent home with a special padded pouch to travel in. Lettie has a smart pinstriped one. She also has a little decorated suitcase and green doll stand, as well as a goodie bag of hair clips and ties, courtesy of another kind Patreon member. She also has a set of different hands, and I'm including her clover eye chips, baking accessories, and even a tiny piece of sponge cake as well. I'm pleased to say that Lettie made it home super quick and has been received happily by her new owner. If you're interested in commissioning a custom doll of your own, then please check out the link in the description box below to my Patreon page. Supporters there have access to a Patreon-only shop, which includes discounted neck joints, exclusive 3D files and patterns, and even free versions of my other patterns too. They get a behind-the-scenes look at upcoming content and occasional exclusive videos. And members of the custom doll tier are able to request custom dolls and see the entire customization process as it happens, well in advance of the video's release. Let me say a huge thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon. Your additional support helps me to do so much more, both on and off of YouTube. Thank you also to everyone for watching until the end. I appreciate every view, like, and comment you're able to leave, and I would love to know in the comments down below what you thought of today's Custom Blythe video. I'm getting ready to start on my next custom doll now, and can't wait to get into it. I hope you'll enjoy it too. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you soon. Bye!
Baby.